We're going to be going over how to create a CMA. I need to figure out where the link for this is. Give me just 1 minute here, guys, maybe two, while we get everyone invited and get all of our links shared. If you're not a real estate agent, by the way, this probably isn't going to be a video for you. This is more for my mentees and new agents that need help with this. I opted to make a live rather than make a video and make it hidden just because of how long this video is going to be. So let's see here. We're going to hop back over to, not chat overlay, it's the wrong one. How do I do this again? There we go. All right, guys. So, for those who don't know, I am a mentor among many other things. And we had a situation in our mentor program where a lot of our mentees had questions how to create a CMA and how to figure out the value of a home and how to generally put together a presentation for people. So we're going to go over that in this video. So it's going to be mostly useful for realtors or aspiring realtors, less helpful for the general public. But if you want to see how we put this together, it still might be a fun thing to check out. A little dry, but I don't know. Maybe there's weird people like me that like this stuff. So when we're looking at properties, the one that I wanted to play with today is one that initially I was going to get to list, and they end up going with someone else. It was before I even did the presentation. But we still get to see, first of all, what the process like this is for an unlisted home. But we also get to look at what the process will look like when this listing goes live, because this listing will probably go live in give or take about 2 weeks. So if you guys follow up and look, you can see what they actually listed the home for. And it might be really fun if you're watching this in, future classes, because you can actually see what it sold for too, which will be kind of interesting. So let's share screen here. We're going to share the whole window. This guy, share. And so the property that we're looking at is this 265 Glenwood. Now, when we're talking about this, I want you to keep in mind that this client reached out to us because if we type in 265 Glenwood Avenue, Ventura, oh, it's all showing Ventura now? That's funny. Oh, is it actually listed? Oh, this could be super interesting. Let's see if it's actually listed. Let's try Zillow. Okay, so it is off market. So when the other people were looking it up, they were finding that it was in Oxnard, and the seller was very frustrated because the prices that were being given were very, very weird. Okay, but this is going to be our address that we're working on, the 265 Glenwood Avenue in Ventura. Now, the thing with this is that it looks like it was a 3-2 when it was last sold, and we want to do a couple of things to kind of figure out the property. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hop on our MLS here, and we're going to see if we can find any history of it ever being sold. The answer is no. It looks like it's never been put into the MLS before. So we have kind of this information here, but we always want to verify, first of all, if who we're talking to is really the seller, and past that, if this bed, bath, and square footage count is accurate. So step 0, we're going to hop onto our title company. I use Fidelity, at least right now, but whatever title company you use, they should have some kind of portal for you, or you should be able to message them and get this information. But this should be pretty accessible. I'm not forcing anyone to use Fidelity. I'm not attached to them in any way, but this is the company that I use, and this is the portal that I would go through to search this. So if I put in the address, yeah, address, and then Ventura County, California. Ooh, why not? What if I just put in the street search? Ventura, cool. Always double check we're in the right city. So this is our property that we're talking about listing right here, right? So as we go through this, we are going to look for a couple of things. The first big thing, and you have to be a little bit patient with me because I actually I'm new to this title company. We used to be with Timios. That was our main partner, but they've left Ventura County. So I'm not as good with this as I was with Timios' stuff. Pop up blocked. Hold on. Always allowed. It's gonna let me do it now. Get now. Let's view our order. And so here we're looking for a couple of things. Okay, first of all, address is still Ventura. We're not pulling the wrong place. Then according to the county, what is our square footage? We've got 3.2 with 5 total rooms. Sure, built in 1960, 1285 square feet. And we could check the owner and all that kind of stuff. It's in a trust, so it's a little harder, right? But that does 3.2, 1285, 3.2, 1285. So it does match other websites, but we always need to confirm because a lot of the time someone will have an add-on or something else done to the home, and or maybe they've made a change and changed the number of bedrooms. So making sure these match, super important. So you know it's a 3.2 1285. So and of course always look over all your title stuff, but we're not going to sweat that right now because we just want to verify the information. So now that we know we have a 3.2 with 1285, we're going to, again, not worry about title. We're going to do this in two different ways for figuring out a home value. We're going to do this first the hard way that you need to know how to do. It's important because this is how the universal way of figuring out a home value is. And then once we're done with that, we're going to look at the easy way. Okay. So I'm going to hop back over to here very quickly. And we're going to back up because I had the address typed in. Did I go too far? Here we are. We're good. So we want to open it up on maps. And when we look at where this place is on maps, sometimes it's better to look at it in satellite. This is in Ventura. We've got the Buena High School right here. We've got all this stuff around. And we want to figure out where similar homes are, right? It's hard to tell from the map perspective, but from the Santa Paula Highway, you kind of get past, once you get to about here over at the Vaughns, this goes up foothill, right? So we have a huge increase in elevation. And you're not going to know that unless you go out and drive and look at places. But that's going to be really important because in general, in real estate, stuff on top of the hill is worth more than stuff on bottom of the hill. Okay. So when we see this, we're looking off the 126, Santa Paula, and Ventura, right? So we'll hop over to our MLS. We're going to do a quick search. Now, I don't want you to get hyper fixated on your MLS because of where we're at. A lot of people here are going to be with either the Ventura County Coastal MLS or the LA MLS or whatever other MLS. The how this looks exactly is less important than the principles. Okay, so don't sweat too much about memorizing the button's location as much as what we're looking for. Okay. So we want to kind of zoom in on our area here, which was up here. I gotta look back at my map. So just north of the 126. So hop back over here. We got the 126. There's Buena High School, and we're right. Is it north of Victoria on Telegraph? No, just south of Telegraph. So right here, just next to Buena. Can we make the satellite? Does that work? Satellite makes it easier for me to kind of see. Yeah, so we're right here, right? So we can look at actives. Active is okay. But we also want to look at active under contract, pending, but most importantly, closed. Expired, withdrawn, canceled, all those can also be useful. Coming soon can also be useful. Is that going to reset my map? Is that going to make me grumpy? Okay, looks like we're okay for right now. So when it comes to pending, pending is active, right? When it comes to like it's like currently pending, so you don't really have to worry about the dates too much. For canceled, all those others, you can more or less keep it the same. But the big thing that we want is to focus on our close date because we really don't want to look at homes that closed a year ago, right? On 11, 6 months is usually kind of ideal. If there's not enough, then we can kind of play with that date if we want to. But right now, within the last 6 months, if we look right next to these guys, we have three. And there's a couple over here on the other side. So when I look at this, we want to kind of take a bubble around our listing. So let's take a square and let's do something like this. Sometimes you can do a bigger square, sometimes you can do a smaller square. It's going to be more of an art than a science when you're playing with the MLS and trying to see prices. But when we look at the neighbors that sold, we have a couple of listings. So if we look more info on this guy, we've got a 3.2, 1285. Is that the same exact square footage as we had? I think so, right? Did I close the page? I think I closed the page. 3.2. What was the square footage? I think it was the exact same. Back. Yeah, 3.2, 1285. So when we look at this, this is a really strong comp right here at 3.2, right? Same square footage. Condition may be different. 3.2, 1330 at 760. And we got 3.2, 1330. So, I mean, we can always start looking far away, but as you look farther away, prices tend to change, right? So, like that's 821, but is it a good comp on the other side of the road? So, you have to be a little bit picky about where you're looking. So, for example, if we look down here, this one's listed for 600, but it's right next to the freeway, like literally right next to the freeway. It's on the other side of the street, right? So, is that a good comp? Also, no pictures. 1.2 million. Again, is that a good comp? Maybe. What's the square footage? It's 3,300 square feet. So, no, not really, right? So, we can use a lot of stuff and we can go back further in time and do a lot of tweaks. But just looking at this guy right here, I mean, based on the pictures, we can take a look and see if it's super torn up. Looks like a really nice property, right? Nothing wrong with it. So we know ish that property that looks like this sells for around 750, right? And because that's the number that they use, the number that worked for them. Now, if we want to get more information, we can absolutely hop on a phone and call this agent and say, hey, I'm listing a house next door. What did you sell for? Right? And sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. But knowing even if it's above or below asking price, knowing how long it was on market, all that kind of stuff is super helpful. So, like in this case, again, if we look at the detail and the history, it only shows pending. Doesn't not going to give me. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it was only listed for 3 days, right? So with 3 days on the market at 750, it sold. So maybe that price is a little too low. Maybe. So if it was me and I were to price a home, we have a couple of big things to look at. Okay. If I go back, is it gonna ruin everything? Let's see. Just ruin my search, ruins my search. That's okay. Let's bring this out of sharing mode for a second. So when we're talking about pricing, the things that we are really excited or worried about is that you are not an appraiser. Okay. Your price that you put out there is not the sales price. It's an idea, it's a suggestion for sales price, but it's not the sales price. Just because you list a home for $1 million, it doesn't mean it's going to sell for $1 million, right? So when we're picking a price, what we want to think about is not just what is it exactly worth, right? But we want to think about what price is best for marketing. Now, back in the day, back in forever ago, when everything was in magazines, you'd see 89, 99, 99, 99, 99, right? Because it wasn't 900,000 because that feels bad. It was a psychological thing. But in modern day, people search using the internet. And when you search using the internet, you're going to do the same kind of thing we did, right? You're going to pick a chunk, you're going to pick a price range. When you pick a price range, how often do you pick 999, 9999? Never. Everyone always uses round numbers. So when you're picking a price, you want to try to pick a round number. Even if it's a little high or a little low, you want to use a round number, because if someone's looking between 800,000 and 900,000 and your price is 79,999,999, then those people that typed in 800,000 aren't going to see it. On the buyer side, it's the same strategy. If they're looking between 800 and 900, maybe set your search to 790 just in case one of those 999s are in there, right? So when we're picking price, we don't really want to get an exact number. We want to get a good marketing number that has a round number attached to it. Okay. So think like $800,000, 850, maybe even 825 for someone that's looking between 800 and 850, right? So we want to pick round numbers. And there would be nothing wrong with saying it's 760. But what happens if someone is looking between 700 and 750? Then they don't see it and they're $10,000 off, right? So for me, I would rather price the house wrong by $10,000 to $25,000, especially on stuff in our price ranges out here. Like, especially when you have $1 million plus listings, you want round numbers. Just make it round. So, when we're looking at those comps and the neighbors were all give or take around 750, that would probably be about where my price is at. Now, doing it on the MLS is good because it has everything in it and it's super meticulous. But what happens if you want to use a tool and the data is a little bit more complicated? Well, you can hop over here. We're going to share a screen again to our handy dandy tool KV Core. And if you're not an EXP agent and you're watching this, first of all, join EXP. We're better. But past that, if you're in California, you should have access to Cloud CMA, which is almost this powerful, which would be a good alternative. But I'm not going to teach you guys how to use Cloud CMA here. It's only if you weren't an EXP agent, and I think most of my mentees are EXP agents. So within EXP Realty, we have our KV Core. My CMA program that I really, really like is under Marketing and then Core Present. And if you have a buyer, you can do a win the offer or a buyer tour, present info, whatever works. In this case, we're trying to win the listing because this is a potential listing, right? We're going to type in our address. And it should drop down. It always has to drop down for it to work. Click that button for it, and it should auto-populate everything. Come on. Why are we doing this? There we go. Okay, so then we click next. And what it should pull up is the same data, 1285, 3-bedroom, built 1960, single family. Wonderful. We click our comparison details. And it does this for us. It brings up a bubble, right? And when you're doing this, you can switch property types. You can do all kinds of cool things to search. I typically ignore year built. I typically ignore this because I'm almost always single family. But if you are doing like a condo or a townhouse, it'd be good to click both. If it is a mobile, obviously try to do that, right? And now we're going to look at this down here. This is our big important thing, our sold match versus our pending match. What we really want is to have comps that are good, and we really want to try to get at least 10. Now, I recognize our 3 listings are still here, our 3 comps are still here. But like if we look up here, right, we've got a house that's a little bit bigger or smaller. Sorry, it's 9% smaller, but 825. But it's up on the hill. So these are things we have to consider is what are our comps really? Is up on the hill really a comp even though it's close? Right now we only have 8 comps. So, let's increase our sales date slightly, even though I said not to. In the bed count, another way to kind of get good comps is to increase the bed count. What I've found is that square footage is way more important than bed count, although it can be important, and it is a factor and is something you have to kind of keep in mind. We definitely want to cut down the distance if we can. The closer, the better, right? And so, and we can also play with the square footage, but we do have a reasonable number of comps here. We have 8 and 2, right? So now that we have our 10 comps, which is about what we want, And you can search by lot size, other stuff too. But for me, this is good enough to get a good idea. I prefer to see too many listings rather than too few listings, right? But when we're presenting this to our clients, there's kind of a catch 22 when you're making these, because sometimes they'll say, well, there was this house just up the street that was $10 million. Why isn't my house worth $10 million? And it's like, well, it's also way, way bigger and also on top of the hill, right? And they're like, oh, so you just missed that one. It's like, well, no. So sometimes it's good to have more comps in there because they can see, but also it can be a negative because sometimes clients really fixate on the most expensive one, right? So you have to, again, balance what you're doing a little bit here. So when we click next, we get this page. And this is, again, super, super helpful for you. I think it's more helpful than just doing the MLS itself. First of all, you can review results and look at all of the homes here and everything that's going on. We can see 48 square foot bigger, 48 square foot bigger. It's the same listing. It popped it twice, which is weird. Shouldn't do that. I'm going to get rid of that because it's a duplicate and I don't need duplicates because it mess up our data. And then we've got all these other homes we can look at and look at pictures and look at location and help us get an idea, right? So when I'm looking at this, the main thing that I'm looking at when I look at the map, again, we know this block is going to be really similar. We don't know that these streets will be similar. If you know the neighborhoods really well, maybe you know that up the hill adds 50 grand or something like that. But typically, if you're not super, super familiar, you want to find a carbon copy of your listing if you can. And we've got Cloverleaf Street, we've got Glenwood, and we have Brookshire, right? So Brookshire, again, we already knew about this one. It's 48 square feet bigger, sold for $750. Then we've got Cloverleaf, sold for $730. What's the difference here? Not a lot. It still looks like they're in pretty similar condition, right? They both look pretty nice. And then the last one was it Glenwood? I think it was Glenwood. Glenwood, again, seems like it's in decent condition. The paint outside looks good. Maybe outdated floors. And it sold for $760. So when we're looking at this down here on the bottom, we can see that for the most part, these places go from anywhere from $563 a foot to like $614 a foot. It kind of helps you get a range idea for pricing. When we look at average closed comps, it's showing it as 809, but also those are pulling houses from on top of the hill, right? And the highest sold showing 942. But again, if we look at the 942, which one's 942? Let's see. 942 on Hunter Street. It's up on top of the hill. It's 221 square feet bigger, which is a lot. It's got RV parking. I don't think our place is RV parking. It has this brand new space down here. So is that a good comp? I mean, you might, maybe if you're fully remodeled, you got the RV parking, maybe we could reach for it. We could try, you know. But as a kind of realistic price range from what I'm seeing because of the neighbors, my expectation is this home is going to sell for around $750. Now, another cool thing with this platform is that we have all of these buttons, okay? We can look at trends, and the more comps you have, the more this will work. There's no coming soon. There's no active, so those buttons don't work. There's only one pending, so that doesn't really work. But if you have a bunch of closed comps, we can look at the highest price, median price. You know, we can pull in the highest and lowest price and see. You know, we can see the nearest, most recent. Now, you don't want to have too many buttons on here, like I just did, but we can see that our lowest closed comp out of this whole thing was 730. So realistically, we really shouldn't sell for less than 730. That'd be pretty bad, right? We know the highest is 942. So we can say with certainty, 100%, this home will sell between 730 and 942, right? And then we have to break it down and look at things. But again, using these trends with these buttons, you can absolutely do this all within the MLS. But as you can kind of see from our results, we're pulling the same houses that were on the MLS. All of these are the same, right? All the same houses. So it's usually pretty accurate. Every now and then it'll miss a house that I think is very valuable and I'll have to like circle back. So if it's a legitimate listing presentation, you do want to double check on the MLS and make sure that these are all right. But it gives you a very good idea before you walk into the house. You can do the same thing with features. If we're looking at closed, does it have a view? Does it have a pool? Does it have a deck? You can push all these buttons and try and get better ideas too if you're having a hard time. This button right here is one of my favorites. It's for estimates. So if we look at this, Zillow says 705, right? So if I'm still trying to figure out, actually, just in general for my presentation, not even if I'm trying to figure anything out, I'll put in like Zestimate. This guy, we can get the Atom estimate as well, and I'll plug in all of the estimates. And what you'll notice is that all of these websites have different prices, and it gets really confusing. And this is why you and your clients should not be using these to really price a home. It can help you get an idea. But like this says 722. I mean, knowing that the lowest that's ever sold is more than that, that seems really low, right? Um, this is 679. That's really low. And the reason that one's so low is because it's an open door offer. It's not their estimate, it's what they'd be willing to pay for the price, right? Or pay for the home themselves. So this stuff really can mess with you, but you can absolutely put all of these in. I usually recommend putting in Redfin, Zillow, and Realtor.com. Their prices are usually decent estimates. But why are these estimates so wrong? Well, I'm not this familiar with it, but I believe they're using, yeah, so they're using recent home sales. So they're pulling averages, so this guy and this guy, and they're like, oh, well, it's a larger lot. Oh, well, it's, more price per square foot. And it's using an algorithm using all the different ideas there to try and piece together what the home is worth. But a lot of these homes is pulling, like this one, isn't necessarily a good comp, right? So you have to be really careful with these, but you can use them to kind of get you in the ballpark because even here, estimated sales price between 708 and 780. That's how confident it is. Um, Again, based on this guy, am I only sharing this one tab or am I sharing? Let me double check this. If I click on this guy and this, oh shoot, I have the wrong thing here. Hold on. Why is it doing that? Let's see. Stop screen sharing, share screen. We want window. So I messed that up for a minute there. So sorry, guys. So if we look at Redfin and their prices over here, it's 708 to 780. Or if we look at, all of these have a price range that aren't super accurate. So the takeaway here, and sorry for not showing everything on the screen, is that all of these estimates are more or less wrong. And this is such a bummer. Okay. So we're gonna take a pause here for a second. So I have to redo all of this because you guys couldn't see it. That is such a bummer. Okay. So back in KV Core, and I'm again so sorry for that. We're gonna hop over from marketing to core present. We win the listing. We type in our address. Ooh, I lost the address too. 5 Glenwood. Downsides of doing things live. So when we do it again, we're checking to make sure the square footage is right, the bedroom count's right, and the bath and the year built and everything's correct, right? We skipped our comp details. So now we have this screen that you guys can finally see. So sorry about that again. So now that we can actually see this, it pulls up all of these guys here. And I'm going to try to put a note in things showing that I did that wrong so that it'll work later for you guys watching retroactively. But so anyways, we get to this page here, right? I had a message. Was it one of you guys? Wasn't one of you guys. Okay. So we get to this here, and again, we can pick our criteria, right? So the big things we want to mess with are going to be the radius. I like to try to do a 0.75 or a 0.5 mile radius, a mile in our area, Oxnard, especially like Oxnard, but even like Newbury Park and stuff is pretty bad. You get such a big difference the farther you look away. So I like to be 0.75 miles or less. Obviously, we have 3 that are super close. When we look at close date, we don't want to go too far out because prices are changing a lot, right? Like we've had 6% jumps in month over month. So we don't want to mess with that too much. I'd say 8 is probably the maximum I'm willing to go out. In terms of bed count, most homes are priced more on square footage than on bed count. So I'm usually pretty comfortable adding or subtracting a room, but we do have to look at that when we are looking at the comps. For square footage, usually 20% is ideal, but if you don't have enough stuff, that's okay. If you have too many or too few, you can play with stuff. So right now we have 12. I don't really need 12. We can bump this down. Did I get rid of any of those? We'll leave it for now. It's about right. So we hop over here to our CMA, and this is where we were before. So this is the best really thing for presenting if you're with EXP in my eyes. So to go over this again, we've got our review results, and we can look at all of our listings here, where they're all at, what all their prices were. Again, out here we've got a 750, a 760, and a 730 all next door that are all basically the same, like 0 square feet smaller, right? So if it was me, I'd probably price it about 750. You can be a little aggressive and say 760 or something. But again, on the pricing, we want to try to keep it round numbers if we can help it, right? And where Zillow and these other companies fail is that they tend to take an average, whether the average is per square foot or for other homes, it takes averages of all these numbers. So it's super, super common to see something like average of closed comps and have it be like 794, or to look at Redfin and 679, or was that one? That one Realtor.com. Realtor.com was 769, or Redfin saying 722. Zillow was again super super low at like 720. So you've got to be 705, right? So these can give you a hint to make sure you're in the right ballpark, but make sure that you're looking at multiple sites to give you a ballpark, and make sure that you're using the actual comps to help you put together a price. Because like with this, as we're looking at it, even though it says average is 794 and high is 960, these results aren't quite right. Like this 960 is up on the hill. It's probably one of our farthest away comps. It is a little bit bigger. I just, not to say that you couldn't do it, because every now and then you can match it, but it'd be a lot harder to do. It's a lot easier to copy work that's already been done on the neighbor's house right next door. It's bugging out. On the neighbor's house right next door, that's 48 square feet larger and sold for, or was listed for 750, right? So in this case, for this home, I would probably say 750 is about my recommended price, sight unseen. I do not like to put my price on this. If I put my price on this, then people tend to get really hung up on it, and you don't want to say it's worth 750 if you're looking at, this house and this is what a 750 looks like. If you show up at your presentation and the house is way nicer or way worse, then you obviously need to adjust. Maybe it's 725. Maybe you think you can get 775 because it's nicer. So you need to do some critical thinking here and figure out your price, but still round numbers. I would try to do, like I said, 700, 725, 750, 775, 800. I probably wouldn't aim for like 760, because we can get an offer that's $10,000 over asking, right? Or $15,000 over asking. That's not that weird. So round numbers for your SEO, and use what's next door and use other people's work. Copy off of what other people are doing. Okay. So once you have that mostly put together, and I would totally put in the estimates and look at outliers, all that kind of stuff. Use this to help you figure it out. But once you have all that put together, you create your presentation. Which takes a minute. All right, and now you get your presentation, and there's going to be all kinds of options you can pick that EXP kind of recommends. In this case, we'll just say it's a make me list, and I like using the modern style. I think it looks prettier. And then here's where your actual presentation is. What I really like about this is that it is both digital and physical. You can print it out as a PDF and as a binder, but you can also text it or email it to your client. Never text it or email to your client until your appointment, right? At the appointment or after the appointment. Don't give it to them ahead of time, because people have a habit of looking over it and making a decision whether they want to hire you without talking to you. So always have this as your presentation when you're there to talk with them and look at the home. Depending on how you do this, I kind of like the market analysis on top. So what your clients will see if they're looking at it digitally is like, what's the average time to sell? 22 days. Average list sale price, $750, has all kinds of other information for them. You can click add slide and add in all kinds of stuff. This should all be customized for you, but you want to try to keep it as succinct as you can. Information that you think that they need, and information that you kind of want them to know. Some of the slides are redundant, so don't put all of them in there. What's my home worth is going to be the main thing they want to know and what they mostly want to look at. And they can actually interact with this if it's on mobile and click and like just like this, look at all of these comps. So it's super, super powerful compared to just printing it out. It can be a little bit clunky. So again, I'm a little bit reluctant with these with like older clients, but some older clients are very, very savvy. Some hate computers and need it printed. And but this is going to be mostly my presentation for how to price it. And when you're doing your CMA and your listing presentation, you're not just presenting yourself. In those slideshows that they teach you to do in the EXP world, they really, really push that this is going to be about like the company and da 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 da. You want to have some stuff in there about you, but most people selling their home want to know what can we get for it and what are you going to do? Like, why should we hire you? And there should be a little bit about like, hey, you've got dogs, you've got friends, ex vet, or whatever it is, right? So you want to have a little bit about you, but not a lot. One thing you'll also notice in here is going to be they have like marketing and buyer activity. It shows how active each of these neighborhoods are. And this page here actually pulls what people have put into KV Core. So like right now with EXP, there are 5 buyers looking for a home in this part of the world in this price range. And that is super, super powerful because when you talk with your clients, you can be like, look, when you're asking if we have buyers, we have 5 right now. Granted, it's not you, but we do, right? We have 5. Maybe you have one. I don't know. And then you have the marketing plans and cool things you can do with KV Core and Core Social. If you don't know about that, then look at it. For me, I make custom pages. This is my marketing plan. Feel free to copy it if you guys want. But this is what we do before we list, our first week of listing and ongoing activities. This is how I'm going to sell your home. This is exactly it. That's the whole game plan. If someone wants to copy it, go for it. It's a lot of work. I do more than most people, right? But this is one of the most important pages because when someone says, like, why should I hire you? This page. This is what I do. And if you find someone that does more, let me know because I'd love to add it to my list, right? Another thing that I have custom for my clients is a weekly listing report. So every single week, my clients get a report on how their listing is doing. Some of the top complaints that people have about real estate agents that list is that they listed the home and then never heard from them. Or I listed my home, I don't know what happened, it never sold. My clients get touch base every single week for the duration of the escrow and for the listing. And they get reports like this. And if it's not blown up here, but basically shows how many views we're getting, all the different platforms, all the feedback we're getting, all that kind of stuff. For the why am I the right fit part, it depends on if they're looking at it on mobile or on computer. I have a little about me video that's like, hey, I'm Brian. I'm an agent. I go above and beyond for these things, right? And I have stuff on express offers. So, for my clients, I feel like I want to answer their questions with the binder because a lot of people will be like, oh, what about? And I can say, oh, well, check out your binder, page 12. If you have if you're looking for cash, looking to close quick, we have that. If you're looking for, the comps, here they all are. They're all for you. They're free, right? Which to me is a much stronger presentation. Again, with EXP, maybe you guys want to do the slideshow, but I feel like this is way, way, way more impactful. And then once it's done, you can present and share it, and you can email it to your clients, all that kind of stuff. Again, I recommend printing it and bringing it with you, and then having a link and giving your client the link at the presentation. If you give people your numbers ahead of time, you're going to come across a couple different problems. First of all, people do what's called buying the listing, where they will go up to the client and go, look, I can sell it for $850. And clients have a habit of hiring whoever says the highest number, right? And so if you give them a number, especially give them a hard number ahead of time, a lot of time they won't talk to you because someone else said they could get more. Another thing you'll come across is that once they have the number, they'll remember that their Uncle Joe is a realtor, and then they'll call that guy to have them list. So you want to try to always get in person before you give them all of this, but absolutely give them all of it before you leave, right? And then we had a lot of questions about net sheets. Net sheets are hard, okay? So, cancel order. The thing with net sheets is that you don't know specifically what your client is going to take home. And a lot of sellers will get very upset about that. But hear me out. I don't actually know what the mortgage balance on your home is. I can guess, but I don't know. I don't know if you have a lien on your property. I'm just checking here real quick. It's chunky. Hold on. Let's see. Stop sharing. I don't know if you have a lien on your property. Okay. I don't know a lot of things about your situation, about your home. I don't know how much tax you're going to have to pay, right? So there's a lot of things like that that I just do not know. What I do know is that the realtor commission is a certain amount, right? Because we're going to have that determined before we proceed. And I do know that there's some taxes and other things included. So for your net sheet, it's going to be a little bit clunky because it's not exact. Like we don't even know what the sales price is going to be, right? We have a guess, but we don't even know that. So when we're talking net sheets, I want you to keep in mind that this isn't exact. And there's a lot of ways to do a net sheet. I pretty much always recommend you work with your title company and have them do it. Sometimes a lender can do it too. Let's see here. Again, I apologize and be a little bit clunky with this because we're working with a new company. Not documents. Is it a report? It's on home. There is a button here. I'm not going to sweat it too much for exactly how we're going to do this. And I know I'm on the wrong screen. Give me 1 second here. I'm just trying to pull up a sheet real estate. So there's all kinds of title places you can use. Let me see if this one works. Yeah, this will work. So when we are talking about the value, talk with your title company. They'll give you the value. But there's tons and tons and tons of ways to pull up this net sheet. And part of the issue is going to be that your net sheet is never accurate. It's not, never. It's a good idea, but never accurate, right? So net sheet calculator, seller credits, purchase price, we can call it 750,000. Why am I not working? 750,000. With no credits to seller. I don't know their mortgage payoff. I could guess. I'm usually 5% commission. I'm usually easy. Some people are like 7 and do crazy stuff. Some people will haggle you down, but we got realtor commission here. Did that adjust when I pushed it or did it not? It did. Okay. 5%. So, $37,000. Real estate tax, again, I don't know, but some of the calculators can guess for you. Closing fees, it can guess for you, right? With all these title things in here. So your estimated net proceeds based on this calculator, and again, it's a guess, is going to be about $700,000, $710,000, right? We don't know if that's going to be the exact number, but that's where we're at. And then if you know their mortgage is a certain amount, you subtract the mortgage, right? Again, your title company will get you more exact. This is Title Smart. Again, doesn't matter what you use, but I wouldn't get too hung up on the net sheet. What's really important to remember is that for the most part, the fees here, because we were at 750 and now we're at 710, right? Most of the fees are going to be realtor fees and some minor taxes, but most of it's realtor fees. So it's not like whatever your realtor fees are, double it or anything like that. It's usually going to be in the range of an additional 2%-ish for the extra costs, which again varies a lot based on Miller Roos and all kinds of other stuff, right? And you can put that in your presentation, but again, at my initial presentation with clients, I don't like to because I don't control that, and I don't like sharing the parts that I don't control. But if you want to do a net sheet, again, online, plug them in, talk with your title rep. Your title rep will get you a really good idea. So in terms of comps and CMAs, that's most of what I got. Sorry again for the hiccup with the wrong screen. Let's see. Stop sharing this. And that's going to be most of what we have on CMAs. If you guys have any questions or want help making CMAs or have any issues like that, please reach out. But aside from that, I will catch you guys next time and let me know if you have any questions.